guys, welcome back to my channel. Tea. Okay, based on the title of this video, I'm sure you guys know what we're going to be talking about today. Sorry for the late upload, but I've been busy, crazy, trying to get my apartment ready. I got almost everything almost ready to go. Tomorrow, the last little bit will be done. Or today, since it's like 12:30 now, which means this won't be uploaded till around 1, possibly 2. Anyway, Julie Plec tweeted. Actually, yeah, Julie Plec tweeted that the original spinoff titled Legacies has been picked up as of May 11th. So which means it will be coming out later this year. It'll be like around like the September, October time frame. That'll be like when it will premiere. Which is basically a hope-centered spinoff of the originals, which I am like so thrilled with, especially with the original season 5, the final season, almost half over now, because they've aired like 4 episodes. So that's almost half, because the season is going to be like 13 episodes. But other than that, and the one thing I'm actually excited about, which is also what the main topic we're going to be discussing, and that is in fact, because on top of Legacies getting, you know, their series to order, the Charmed reboot was also ordered to series by the CW. So that's mostly what we're going to be talking about. And I do have the Charmed Complete series I could have brought, but, you know, it's not really in relevance to this. The only thing we know about it is that it is going to be 3 sisters who find out they're witches, and you know, the same premise as the original Charm, you know, 3 sisters fighting demons. However, I do believe that they're going to be much younger than Prue, Piper, Phoebe, and Paige were. Due to the fact that the premise of the show is it's going to be set in a college-centered town. So, I mean, it's most likely meaning that either the girls are most likely going to be, we don't know if they're going to be in college, we just know that the town they're in has a college in it. So I'm sure that they're going to tell us why that was so relevant in the description. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. However, and I've stated this in the past, I've always wanted, if there is a Charmed the next anything, to just be like the next generation. Where, you know, obviously they would have to recast older Wyatt and older Chris because of the fact that the actors who originally played them are far too old to play them now, since both of them are like in their 40s now. But anyway, you know, about, you know, Piper's kids, Phoebe's kids, Paige's kids, and just, you know, see what their lives are like. I still believe that would have been a really good, hold on. I don't know what that was. I think it would have been a better idea. Because Charmed ended 12 years ago now. So, I mean, I feel like enough time has passed. Well, for one, enough time has passed for them to do a reboot like they are doing. Also, the other thing I'm really excited about is because it's been 12 years, the graphics, the special effects are going to be so much more advanced than they were 12 years ago when Charmed was airing. Because if any of you have actually watched Charmed, you know throughout the seasons the special effects got better. The magic got better. So I'm kind of I'm intrigued. I mean, I still love the original show. The pilot is going to be the one factor into the show, whether or not it survives or not. I was talking to my brother about this. He's just not going to watch it because he liked the original show. Um, and I, like I just said, I would much have preferred them just do a reboot. I mean, not a reboot. Like the next generation, like about the Charms kids, about their kids. I feel like it would have been a better story because, especially Wyatt, who's like more powerful, but also about Phoebe's children because, I mean, in the comics, we did get an idea. I mean, but that Phoebe's children in the comics, they've only developed Cupid powers. As far as I know, we will never know because the comics are over now. So we will never know what their powers are. I mean, we know what obviously Wyatt, Chris, and Melinda's powers are because they're shown in the comics. Paige's daughters have Piper's powers, but they're different. When Piper receives a third power in the comics, which is called molecular acceleration, which is basically an advancement of her combustion power. Basically, it causes things to melt or it heats things up to the point where they melt or like explode, something like that. So one of Paige's children has that power, and then her other daughter has molecular degeneration, where like the power Piper had in her past life. So basically, Penny's mother, she had the power to freeze, but it wasn't completely freezing. It slows down time. It doesn't completely freeze. It's been estimated in the comics that Paige's daughters will receive Piper's powers backwards, whereas like the daughter who one of the Paige's daughter who had can slow down time, most likely when she grows older she'll receive the full freezing power, whereas where her other daughter had the ability to basically heat things up, when as she grows will receive the full exploding power. Yeah, I kind of just went off. That wasn't even relevant, but Phoebe's children develop the Cupid powers, like the teleporting, the beaming, whatever. But so that's what I mean. I feel like the storyline for that would be so good because they have so much they could work on. Like there's so much already there that would be easy to adapt into a TV show. But that's not what we got. But the reboot, I'm actually excited. I'm intrigued on who they're going to cast as the three sisters. I'm intrigued if they're going to have the same names. I have a feeling they're going to change the names. I don't know if they're going to keep Halliwell as the family name. Most likely because, the Charm reboot is going to hit a new generation than the old Charm did. I'm sure that the fans of the original show are going to watch the reboot. That's just what's going to happen. There are still millions of fans out there that love Charmed, that still do. Hell, I own most of the comics. I own all of Season 9, and I own Volume 1 of Season 10. I just need to get the other 3 volumes, and that's it. Because the comics, they only had a Season 9 and Season 10 of the comics, and that's it. But the only thing about the reboot is I'm wondering if their powers are going to be the same. My only hope is that if, the sister who has telekinesis stays, the sister who has the power to freeze stays, I just hope that the sister that gets, that would normally get Phoebe's power of premonition, I really hope they change that power. Just because in the show, not the comics, the show, I always felt like Phoebe was always kind of like the runt of the family, because she always got the weaker power, the passive power. That's also why Phoebe is the one that they basically had to develop an ability to fight, whereas Prue and Piper didn't really have to because their powers were, they had an active power, physical power that was actually beneficial, especially when Piper received her exploding power toward the end of Season 3. I feel like honestly, Phoebe didn't really get really good active power until season 6 when she got her power of empathy. I mean, yeah, the first episode of season 3, she gets the power of levitation, which to me, I don't really see. I mean, to me, I mean, the show is mostly based on, Phoebe's powers growing, because levitation isn't exactly premonition-esque, if you know what I mean. Because Prue's power, she has telekinesis, and then she gets astral projection, which makes sense, because she can move things with her mind. Why not her body? Which is how Prue actually explained it. And then Piper's powers make sense because Piper's powers work on a molecular level, where she can freeze things, and then she can speed things up, causing them to explode. Whereas Phoebe's power, she just has, premonition, see the past and the future, and then it moves on to levitation. It doesn't really make sense as a power. However, empathy, I feel like, actually matches pretty well with premonition, because when Phoebe has a premonition, she feels everything that she's seeing. Hence why when she had that one premonition in season 5, where she hadn't had a premonition in a while, and so she basically, astral premonitioned, where she literally got wounded. She literally felt everything when she was having a premonition. That's why I feel like it made sense. Her power of empathy. So, my hope for the reboot is for them to basically change the Phoebe character so she does not have premonition. I would like her to have a power that's, different, more useful. Not that premonition isn't a useful power, but I just felt like Phoebe always had to depend on her sisters because their powers were active, or that's the reason why she had to, gain ability to fight, which, I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but, I mean, at the same time, I mean, even Phoebe states it in the show a few times that she kind of got the sucky part of the power stick. I mean, even after Prue died, and then we have Paige, I do like the fact that Paige had, it was like a hybrid power, a blend of telekinesis and orbing. I'm only going to mention this, and I'll stop mentioning the original show, but I don't like what they did with Paige over the course of the show, because she was in the show for 5 seasons, but the only Wiccan power she ever received was her main power. I mean, over the course of the show, Phoebe and Piper have they gained a new power. I mean, they had 2 powers, whereas I don't really count Paige's because the majority of Paige's powers come from her White Lighter half. I mean, so in that sense, she has the most powers, but in terms of her Wiccan powers, she only has her power of telekinetic orbing, which I feel is really unfair. And even in the comics, she does receive a new power, but all it is an orb shield, the same thing Wyatt has. So, I mean, which all an orb shield is like an advancement of telekinetic orbing. So I feel like what I would have wanted for Paige is for her telekinetic orbing power to advance where she receives the pure Wiccan form of that power. For example, Chris. Chris has both versions of that power. Although, I don't know with timeline, because when Chris, in season 6, the only power we saw Chris have is the regular form of telekinesis. But baby Chris in season 8 has the ability of telekinetic orbing. So, I don't know if that's just because with him going back in time, maybe that changed his power, or because if you go into the Wikipedia page, Chris, for Chris, it shows that he has both versions of that power. So it's not impossible for a White Letter Witch to be born or to receive both versions of that power. So, I mean, honestly, if Paige were to receive, my theory is this: if Paige were to receive another Wiccan power, I feel like it would be best. Like in the show, what I feel like the power that should have given her is either the regular form of telekinesis, which is most, it's the power that makes the most sense, or energy balls, because we've seen White Lighters in season 3, when they are fighting Ames, Natalie, the White Lighter, she trained them with using low voltage energy balls. So White Lighters already have that power. And we've seen witches with that power. So that's another power for Paige that would make the most sense. Because, you know, even if you want to, because of the whole, how her powers are more hybridized, because her 2 Wiccan active powers, even though the Orb Shield didn't come into the comics, until it came to the comics. They're both basically hybrid versions of her orbing and telekinesis. So, I mean, I feel like energy balls would have also fit that same pattern that they had going. Whether or not that she would have received a new power if the comics had continued to a season 11 or 12 or what... Oh, excuse me. We just don't know. Honestly, I've thought about this for years. Like, what if Prue would have lived? What would have been her next power? Because most of the Charmed ones have had 3 powers, except for Paige. She really only had the 1 throughout the entire course of the show, which honestly still pisses me off because I feel like it's not really fair. Because Phoebe has 3 powers. She gains a 4th power, which is Psychic Reflection, in the comics. But throughout the entire show, Piper only had 2 powers. She had her freezing power and she had her exploding power. So throughout the entire show, she only really had 2. But yeah, I've been going on a long time about, you know, the original show, and I'm sorry, but I tend to just go on a tangent a lot of things. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know this. But I'm definitely interested in watching the reboot. I'm really excited about the spin they're going to give it, because you know they're going to. The show has to be different than the original, just because because they're going to want to draw people who are new people who've never watched Charmed before. That's one of the demographics they're going to be watching, that they're going to be pulling people toward. Also, people who watch the original show are also going to want to be interested in it. They want people like me who's watched the show for years. Okay, I've been watching Charmed since years now. It's been 15 years I've been watching that show, probably. Probably about 15 years I've been watching it. Actually, I've been watching that show since about, 2003. I think when the show was airing, I think it was around season 2 or 3 when I first started watching it. Ancient times, really. But yeah, I mean, I've watched every episode so many times. Like, if I'm going to sit down and watch that show, I can't just sit down with season 1 and then marathon the series. It's just for me, with that show, I've watched it so many times, sitting down and watching every episode in order is boring. For me, if I'm gonna sit down and watch a season, I would jump around throughout the season, because some episodes I've seen so many times or just aren't really my favorite. Like the episode in season 1 about the Dream Sorcerer. I've watched it dozens of times, but I mean, it's one of those things where you can only watch something so many times before you just are so bored with it. I've watched season 3 a lot of times, mostly due to the fact that it is Prue's final season. It's also where you actually see her power at its strongest. Prue also comes into the comics, in case any of you watching don't know that. She does appear in the comics. And she pretty much appears in all of them. So, which I'm glad, because, they never did bring Prue back into the show due to the conflict between Alyssa Milano and Shannon Doherty, which is a sadness. Truly. But you never know. I mean, they may make a guest appearance in the new Charmed. Obviously, they wouldn't play the old Charmed characters, but you never know. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say. on the reboot. I'm sorry if I went on a tangent talking about the old show, but when you've been a fan of a show as long as I have, you can talk about it forever. Now let's talk about Legacy, because that's also part of it that I also want to talk about too. Legacy. I'm sorry, this is going to be like a 30-minute video, guys. If you've made it this far, I will leave a link in the description of when I will... Never mind. I'm thinking about something else. I forgot I said that. Okay, Legacy, yes, about Hope. The only thing we do know is that Hope will be 17 in the reboot. My mind's still on Charmed, I swear. In Legacy, Hope will be 17. And in Season 5 of the originals, Hope is only 14. Which means that that Legacies will be set 3 years after Season 5 ends. Possibly. We haven't seen the end of Season 5. We don't know if they're going to be doing like a time jump of 3 years, so it kind of sets in with where Legacies is going to begin. The only thing we do know is that the story will be set at the Salvatore boarding house, which will be oh my god. Sorry about that. So anyway, it will be set in Mystic Falls, which I'm so glad of, because, you know, possibly we'll be seeing the actors that have been cast in Legacies that we know of are Alaric, which I'm super happy about, Danielle, whatever her name is, her last name, but the same person that plays Hope, Michelson, in the original Season 5 will be cast as Hope in the Legacies. The actors that play Lizzie and Josie Saltzman. I mean, it goes without saying that we're probably going to see Caroline every now and then, especially since Caroline is Lizzie and Josie's surrogate mother, or mother. I mean, it's the only mother they know. So I mean, because you know, Joe died before they were born. So, but yeah, and I mean, the one thing we know because of the pictures, that we know this much. We know Klaus and Caroline are going to end up together before the originals ends. And if you who don't know that, sorry, but it's pretty obvious at this point. So obviously, because it's Hope, you know, we'll see the Michelsons, even if they are just guest appearances. It's going to be interesting to see. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how Hope progresses the rest of the season in the originals, and because if they don't do a 3-year flash forward saying what's happened, it'll be really interesting. I have a feeling like they're not going to do that. Like, everything is going to be resolved, I mean, with the Hollow in Season 5 and everything. And then they're most likely going to, then we'll kind of, Legacies will just, you know, begin 3 years later, and it's kind of, well, they'll most likely explain kind of like what's been happening the last 3 years. So I'm definitely excited about that. Plus, I mean, you never know, because it isn't based in Mystic Falls. I'm hoping that we may even see Bonnie or Matt. Those are the only people still alive. Oh, and Elena and Damon. Well, with Nina Dobrev, I don't know, because, I mean, it was hard for her to even come back to film the episodes that she did. But, I mean, it's been, you know, I mean, the Vampire Diaries ended last year, I think. I think it was last year? Yeah, I think it was last year. So, I mean, the last time she played Elena was like a year ago. Even if she does appear, it may not be in Season 1 at all of Legacies. So, honestly, I was actually, before they released that information about Legacies, I always wondered what would they name it? because I'm like, because if it's centered around Hope, at first I thought the show was just going to be called Hope. But also, the description of Legacies is going to be based about how these young witches, werewolves, and vampires are going to basically be the heroes, or are they going to be the good or whatever that they meant to be, or the villains they were born to be. Which, if anyone knows, Hope is supposedly destined to be the downfall of witches, in New Orleans at least. So we've also seen that little tidbit in the original Season 5 so far. So it's going to be interesting to see just how powerful Hope is. We've seen bits and pieces of her power in Season 4 and what we've seen so far in Season 5. So it's going to be quite interesting. It's going to be quite interesting to see Hope's power and see how further she develops. She does have a love interest in this season, a newly turned vampire named Roman. Or, well, just a young vampire named Roman. We don't know how long he's been a vampire, so we don't really know anything about him quite yet, but before the end of the season. But he has not been cast for Legacies, so it makes me wonder if he ends up dying in this season of the originals. I guess we will find out soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this video went in a lot of places, and it wasn't really, in videos like this in the future, I will, write down notes so I don't get sidetracked like I tend to in a lot of my videos. Also, my hair, it's looking things. And yes, I have a lot of dark roots. But I leave for Minnesota in like 5 days. So, my next video will be uploaded on Sunday. Possibly earlier. Just know that I may be a day or two late on, let's see. Let's look at my phone real quick. Right. So my next video, I should have it uploaded by the 20th. The week after that will most likely be around the 28th, which is the Monday after that. It might be a few days late. I may not end up get it out until the week after that, so I may end up having to skip a week. It just depends on my schedule and how busy I am when I actually get to Minnesota. So, if anything, I will upload this short little video, even if it's like 30 seconds. I'm also planning on doing, because I am moving to Minnesota by a Greyhound, so I am going to be doing some vlogging with my phone, so I might be piecing that footage together and recording it already. Oh, and so my next video, which I'm going to be recording right after this, which will be going up on Sunday, is going to be a haul. My birthday / Christmas present haul that I got from my friend Jessica, because she went to Korea in August, and then she didn't get back until November, and I just hadn't seen her until about 2 weeks ago, and when she was here visiting. So, alright, I will see you guys on Sunday. To everyone out there, always remember to be true to who you are. Never compromise for anyone. As long as you're not doing anything, you're fine. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.